I saw X-Men Dark Phoenix on Monday, and now I'm going to give you my spoiler-free review. Welcome to the newest episode of SDW.
Super Dario World!
It's a me,
Dario!
Woohoo! Let's go!
So I tried using pre-workout for the first time yesterday, and I gotta tell you, it's a hell of a difference, man. It's a hell of a difference. It feels really weird. At first, I thought that I was getting an allergic reaction to it because, I don't know, whenever I take a new supplement or do anything, I always feel like I always have an allergic reaction. I'm kind of paranoid that way, and I kind of felt like my skin was on fire. That's actually normal, but okay, so when I get allergic reactions, it usually manifests on my skin, and it kind of feels like it's on fire, and it gets swollen, and I get hives and all that. I break out in hives. And so this time, I felt like I was breaking out, but there was no actual physical reaction, so it was all in my head. So like, okay, I just need to get over this. It's all in my head. It's fine. I just took this, and it's fine. But it's one hell of a physical difference. Hell of a physical difference. Usually when I'm leaving the studio, I am dead. Like, I'm a dead man walking. I can barely drive all the way home. I'm exhausted. All I want to do is just get home, eat, and lay down on my couch because I'm dead, right? Yesterday, I was ready to go, man. I took it right before I left the station. Well, not like a few minutes before I knew I was going to leave the station. And on the drive home, I started feeling myself waking up, more and more energy. So I made it to the gym. I was ready. And it was weird because I felt like I was moving faster with more of a purpose. Usually it's a little bit of a drag. You know, when you get there, you got to get ready, you got to change. But no, yesterday I felt like I was doing it with a purpose, with focus. And I was lifted more than I did before because I took a couple of weeks off because I was feeling terrible the other week, and last week I just procrastinated because, you know, that usually happens when you get out of your rhythm. You usually end up screwing it up. So I'm trying to get back in it, and like I said, I was lifted more than I did before. So that felt really cool. And the rest of the day, I left the gym. I did my usual stuff. I left the gym, and at home, I still was like, I don't want to sit down yet. I don't want to sit down in front of the couch yet. So I just started cleaning stuff. I made some food. It was great. Honestly, it's a very different experience. It's like I felt awake for the first time in a while. So that was good. I'm going to keep doing it. Let's see how that goes. Let's see how if it keeps having an effect or if it was just like a one-time thing. The only issue is that it took me a little bit longer to fall asleep, but I was also doing stuff. I rewatched John Wick 2 yesterday because I was watching it with somebody who she'd never seen it before, so we rewatched it, and I could not stop being amazed by. There's a fight sequence that happens in a room that's all mirrors. Imagine a mirror maze, but some of the mirrors are moving, and I was just stunned because how the fuck were they hiding the lights in there? How the fuck are they hiding the camera in there? How are they hiding the crew? And so I kind of gotten to a point where I was like, I need to figure this out. Because I know a bunch of camera tricks, but I was like, how the fuck did they do this? So I started doing some research online, how they did it, and I started reading into it. And the amount of planning that went into doing that sequence, and it wasn't as expensive as they originally thought it would be because they planned it properly. And basically they researched all the tricks in the books for doing any shoots in front of a mirror. And so they used all of them, and they had to invent a whole bunch of different tricks from curved mirrors, angles, being covered up in black, using CGI afterwards. They did everything to make that scene work, and at the end, it's fantastic. Honestly, I wasn't even paying attention to the action. That this time was just focusing on like, okay, every reflection, where are they? How are they doing this? It's a stunner, man. Like that scene alone is worth giving it a good study if you're into film stuff. Because, basically what I read is what the director said. I always forget his name, but what the director was saying is that he figured that the dude used to be a stunt director before, so he knows kind of how that works. And he said while they were doing rehearsals, they also brought in the cameraman, they brought in the DP so that everybody was rehearsing at the same time, which is a mistake that a lot of filmmakers do. I consider myself as part of that group. I've never done that before. When you're doing rehearsals, bring in the rest of the crew. It's a little bit more expensive, but if you do your preparation beforehand properly, it'll save you time while you're doing the actual shoot. So always pre-production. Invest as much as you can, as much as possible. Do every single thing you can and more in pre-production. It'll save you a whole lot of time, a whole lot of money, a whole lot of complications, and you will come out with amazing stuff. Like, that scene is phenomenal. Just you can look it up on YouTube. John Wick 2 mirror scene. That's probably how you can find it. It is phenomenal. It's a fantastic piece of filmmaking, and it's one of the greatest action scenes in the movie. Well, it has a ton of action scenes, but it's one of the best like filmed action scenes just because of how impressive it is. Not just because of the action, because of how they shot it and the amount of work that went into it. I highly recommend that you check that out. And the John Wick franchise in general, it's really great. But anyway, I've already talked about John Wick enough. I'm going to talk about X-Men. But before I get into that, let me just give you a quick reminder that the podcast is now officially a part of the show's podcast network, which means that you can find it on the iHeartRadio app. Just type in the show presents Super Dario World. You'll find it right there. Or you can find it in the rock1053.com page. Just click on the podcast tab. You'll find it right there. Or you can find it on SoundCloud, YouTube, and iTunes as Super Dario World Podcast. You can find them right there. Type it in the search bar. As always, please follow me on social media. You can find me at Dario the Show. Any comments, questions, or suggestions, please reach out. A listener sent me an article the other day. Well, not the other day. I think it was yesterday. He sent it yesterday. And the title of it was, Start Planning Your End of the World Party because a new report says human civilization will collapse within 31 years. I appreciated him sending that, and I was like, oh my God, another one. No, what is this? What is this? And it turns out it's about climate change, and he had just heard my podcast about aliens and climate change. So I went into the report because the article is based on a report, right? If you heard the title, it's based on a report. I went to the report, and it's a PDF. You can get it for free online. It's called Existential Climate Related Security Risk, a Scenario Approach. And it's the thing's 11 pages long. The first one is it's 11 pages. So this thing that's going to predict the end of the world is 11 pages long. And not even that, because you have to include that the cover's in there. The last page is blank. And also there's a foreword and another page just for telling you who the authors are. So they've wasted 4 pages on nothing. So the rest of the 7 pages is just basically a description of the worst case scenario possible. And I mean the worst case scenario possible. And there's a line here, and I love this. I'm going to quote directly from the source. Climate scientists may err on the side of least drama, whose causes may include adherence to the scientific norms of restraint, objectivity, and skepticism, and may underpredict or downplay future climate changes. End quote. So what he's saying there is that climate scientists may err on the side of caution because of they adhere to the principles of restraint, objectivity, and skepticism. The scientific norms of restraint, objectivity, and skepticism. So trying to be objective is a bad thing, okay? Don't be objective. And what follows after that is pretty much them being non-objective at all and going for the worst case scenario on everything. Like the worst thing that could possible in all possible scenarios. So for the P1 who sent me that, thank you. It's funny to see the sources that people take, because literally it's the first fucking sentence in there. Well, it's not the first sentence. It's after the introduction. It's the first sentence in there where they're saying, we're not going to be objective at all. I'm a scientist and I'm not going to be objective. I'm not going to look at the evidence in an objective fashion, because that makes you give us less dramatic predictions. Oh my God. People are stupid. I love it. Anyway, in case you were wondering, the end solution is more government control. Government needs to have more control over labor and resources. And I quote, a scale unprecedented in peacetime. So there you go. It's not like they're trying to sell you something. No, it's not like they have an agenda at all. But anyway, okay. I need to get my head straight. Okay.
Let's break this down, bub.
So, X-Men Dark Phoenix hits theaters this Friday, and I got to see a special press screening of it earlier this week. I believe it was Monday. And there was a press embargo, so I couldn't talk about it until today. Well, until yesterday at 10 p.m., but I wasn't going to start recording the podcast at that time because it was late and I was tired. But anyway, Dark Phoenix marks the 12th movie in the X-Men universe, if you count the Deadpool movies, which I do because they still kind of mix together a little bit very lightly. just very lightly. But anyway, so overall, and this is going to be spoiler-free for everybody, spoiler-free. I'm going to try to not spoil anything for you. And honestly, I don't think I can because the story is one big fat mess. It's a very long movie. It's almost 2 hours, and it's kind of boring, and the story makes no sense. Now, it does have some good things in it, but it's mostly bad things. I wish I could do, like, I don't know, a Good, the Bad, and the Dario. I might start doing that. You know how I did the Good, the Bad, and the Martin for Game of Thrones? I might just do the Good, the Bad, and the Dario in general. Just, I don't know, it's so that I can keep things balanced, because right now, this movie was really bad. Okay, I'll be fair. I was not a big fan of the other X-Men movies in general. They changed the story way too much. I think that the animated series is still way, way better than anything that we've ever seen live action come out of the X-Men, except maybe Deadpool and Logan. Logan, they nailed Logan. I think that one was fine. But, you know what? More than fine, it was great. Deadpool was great, too. But for the X-Men, just the X-Men, they can't figure it out, man. It's time they just throw in the towel. Because this one was disgustingly bad. And the person that I'm going to blame for this, the person that carries all the blame here, is director Simon Kinberg. And I know what you're thinking. Who the fuck is director Simon Kinberg? Well, that's reasonable because this is actually his first feature-length film. Okay? So for a multi-million-dollar project, one of the biggest franchises they had, they used a newbie director. I mean, he had directed... All right, in his defense, he had directed an episode of The Twilight Zone, and that's it. And also that episode is for 2019, so it's not like he did it a while ago. So he's a newbie director, and they give him the X-Men. Well, they didn't just give him the X-Men, because he kind of gave it to himself. Oh, what are you talking about? Well, if you guys remember, a few years ago, or was it last year, former director Bryan Singer, he got in some trouble with the Me Too movement and actually with molesting young boys. So they kind of gave him the boot because nobody wanted to work with him. And so the producer of the movie, whose name is Simon Kinberg, decided, you know what? I'm going to direct the next one. So instead of hiring somebody with experience, he decided, you know what? I got this. I can direct the next X-Men movie. Because producing and directing are so similar. And to his defense... He's produced some pretty decent titles. He produced the Deadpool movies. He produced Logan. He produced Fantastic Four. He produced The Martian. He produced the TV show Legion, which is good. He produced the Twilight Zone TV show, which, again, he got hired to direct it because he kind of hired himself. He produced Star Wars Rebels. The dude's a good producer. He's a big-name producer. He's also a writer. And he's written... pretty much all of the X-Men movies since X-Men The Last Stand. And, well, he didn't touch Deadpool, okay? He didn't touch Deadpool, but he did X-Men The Last Stand. He did Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, and now Dark Phoenix. So he was the writer, director, and producer for X-Men Dark Phoenix. So all the blame falls on this guy's shoulders. By the way, he also wrote the Fantastic Four movie, the reboot, which was terrible, which was disgustingly bad. Yeah, he wrote that one. Anyway, so you got this... director, writer, producer, and so I'm going to blame everything on you, Simon, because the story makes no sense. I'll give you points in the production because the cast is still there. It's good. The visuals look fine. The effects are fine. The quality of that stuff is fine. The problem is everything else, and you're supposed to be a fucking writer! You're a writer and your story makes no fucking sense! Also, have you read a X-Men comic book in your fucking life? A X-Men comic book. Just one. Dude's been writing the X-Men movies since, again, The Last Stand. And if you guys don't remember this, X-Men The Last Stand was about the Dark fucking Phoenix! The Dark Phoenix! And so, now, okay, I don't want to spoil stuff for you. But, point is... this guy is not following the rules for the same world that he already fucking wrote. It's his own fucking world. Like, I understand if somebody else comes in and messes up with your shit, but this is the guy that's been messing with the shit from the beginning. If you guys remember in The Last Stand, the rules for how Jean Grey became the Dark Phoenix do not apply at all for this one. And Again, written by the same guy. And you can be like, oh, well, those two were separate franchises, blah, blah. No, he linked them together in Days of Future Past. It's really stressful for me. It was really stressful for me to watch. But, so okay. All the blame, gonna lay it on that guy's shoulders. But let me give you, for those of you who don't know what the movie's about, let me give you what the movie's about. Here is the description according to IMDb. Start quote. Jean Grey begins to develop incredible powers that corrupt and turn her into a Dark Phoenix. Now the X-Men will have to decide if the life of a team member is worth more than all the people living in the world. Okay, end quote. So, for starters, it bugs me that in the descriptions, it says turns her into a Dark Phoenix. Like, there are multiple Dark Phoenixes, so she becomes one of them. No, she is the Dark Phoenix, you fucking morons. And you know who should have written that synopsis? The fucking writer! Ah! Anyway, so I need to start with the good. So, the good, James McAvoy is very quickly becoming one of my favorite actors. The dude is phenomenal. If you've seen Split, he knocks it out of the park. His performances are fantastic. His performance as Xavier, once again, is really good. The only problem is that they completely destroyed Xavier's character. Now, in the defense of the writer, they did write Xavier slightly closer to the comic book version of him. The only problem is that Xavier does not make sense with the Xavier of the previous movies, which you fucking wrote! Anyway, so good performance there. I like Michael Fassbender's performance because I'm a big Michael Fassbender fan. I've mentioned this before that I think he's the best actor working right now that hasn't won an Academy Award, and he should have. Honestly, he should have. He's been in some of my favorite films. His Magneto is really good. The only problem is that, again, Magneto was all over the place. His motivations were all over the place. His emotions were all over the place. It did not make a lot of sense. Jean Grey, Sophie Turner, okay performance. The problem, and I don't want to blame her that much. I have a lot of issues with Jean Grey. I'm not a big Jean Grey fan. The character in general annoys me. It's like Cyclops. Cyclops annoys me for no reason, just because he's there. Probably because I'm more of a Wolverine guy. But Jean Grey annoys me. Okay? I don't like characters that are so powerful that their only weakness is that it is their own mind and their own weakness of character, especially when they are supposed to have one of the most powerful minds in the universe. But anyway, she annoys me. And so the way that they wrote the character, I guess her performance is fine. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. I want to get into it because there's a lot of examples of this throughout the movie, but I can't because it'll be spoilers. So let's just say performances so far so good. The only performance that I really did not like is the guy who plays Cyclops. And again, I don't know if that's... Okay, here's my issue with Cyclops. And if you watch the movie, you'll notice this. The dude really doesn't know how to act with his face, if that makes any sense. He doesn't know how to emote that well. Or I guess he only knows how to emote with his eyes. The problem is that with Cyclops, you can't see his eyes. So the dude ended up like acting with his forehead. Just, like, oh, I'm distressed, so my forehead must look really wrinkly right now. And so I don't know if that was the actor's decision or if it was the director's decision, but it looks really weird, and he is by far the worst. The worst. This is not only because I don't like Cyclops, but he's by far the worst actor in this movie. And which sucks because if you remember the original X-Men movies, James Marsden, I think that's how you say it, plays a fantastic Cyclops. I totally hated him, but you could actually tell what he was feeling, what he was thinking. He really knew how to emote properly, even though you couldn't see his eyes. He did a fantastic job. The movie sucked, but he did a fantastic job. This kid, Ty Sheridan, not so much. Not so much. The rest of the cast is fine. Jennifer Lawrence has one of the most annoying lines ever. I hate when they try to ram social issues down my throat. And this is something that I was telling my sister, and my sister was like, it's fucking X-Men. I don't want all this shit being rammed down my throat. I get it everywhere else. I just wanted to see X-Men fighting other mutants or aliens or whatever. I want to see the X-Men kicking ass. That's it. I don't need you ramming your political propaganda down my throat, okay? I feel that way about everything. Stop ramming your shit down my throat, okay? It's really annoying. Just let me enjoy my fucking movie without hearing your stupid biases and your stupid propaganda. Anyway, so everybody else's performances were fine. The problem is that a lot of the characters... Okay, the director, Simon, he did not know how to use the characters. Nightcrawler is criminally underused. Storm's powers, they completely changed. She went from being, like almost a demigod who controls the weather to just being kind of like... I read this description as the best description, to just becoming kind of like Raiden from Mortal Kombat, because all she does is throw lightning, and at one point she controls ice and space, which makes no sense. Honestly, she's supposed to control climate, okay? That's her power. She controls climate. How is she going to create ice in space? You need water to create ice in space. That's something, I think you can see it in the trailer, so I don't think I spoiled anything. It doesn't really make any sense. Powers here don't make any sense. Also, they don't know how to use speedsters and they don't understand them, and so that makes them just kind of take them out of the way. So a lot of the characters that they did not know how to use, they just kind of like put them to the side. Like, let's ignore you. We don't really understand how to use you, so I'm just going to put you over here. Even though you're really cool and you're super popular and you have great powers and it would be super interesting to see a fight with you, I'm just going to put you to the side. And so that it was a big heaping mess. And the biggest thing, the worst thing... I'm still with the good things. Okay, I'm still with the good things. I really enjoyed that I got to see Magneto in a close combat situation. It was super cool to see. The fights some of them are pretty cool. There's a Nightcrawler fight that's really cool. There's a Magneto fight that's super awesome. Close quarter combat, which is great to see Magneto in that scenario, because you usually just see most of the fights just, I'm using my magnetism powers and I'm not really moving. I'm stressing out because I'm using my powers and stuff like that, which can be kind of annoying. This one, it was kind of cool to see him kind of get into the nitty-gritty of it. The problem is that there's mostly psychics in this movie, so psychic fights are kind of boring. Because again, it's just somebody, I lift my arm, I do this, I get into your mind, and I'm giving you a headache, and which I assume is going to be super, super, super painful to get a headache caused by a psychic or stuff like that, or to get a vision, and the trauma, to have trauma created directly into your brain must suck, but it's really boring to watch on screen. So again, the movie's really boring in that sense. The actual physical fights are somewhat okay. The problem I have with some of them is that they don't know that all the characters can do things at the same time. It becomes almost like a turn-based RPG. It's like, okay, I do one thing and you counter it, and then another character does something else and it's countered. It's like, how about if you all attack at once? How about when one does one thing, you all do something? You don't just be like, oh, she's going to try this. Oh, well, that didn't work. Well, now I'm going to try this. Oh, well, that didn't work. How about if you all work at the same time, huh? I hate the thing that people tend to forget, especially when there's characters with guns, okay? If there's characters with guns and they're just kind of standing there staring, kind of like, oh, my God, what's she doing? Well, should I shoot? No. And then when they finish doing what they're doing, they're like, oh, now I'm going to shoot. And that's when they stop you. It's like, dude, you had all the fucking time in the world to shoot. What were you waiting for? Were you waiting for the attack to get worse? It's a pet peeve of mine. It's really annoying, and it tells you that just they don't know what they're doing. And the problem there, that's my problem with writer-directors. Because when you're writing, you need to write one action at a time. Guess what? When you're filming, you don't have to, because you can only write one action at a time. Unless you be like a group, or you group things together. And then you start separating it. But when you're directing it, you can show a bunch of characters doing things. You don't have to show each action at a time. You can just get, like, if you get 10 actions listed out, you can show all those 10 actions at the same time. It's not that difficult. But that's a problem with writer-directors. But anyway, so the movie's a mess, just like me right now. I got too upset in the beginning. I need to collect myself and recover my thoughts. Another good thing from the movie is the soundtrack. It was made by Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer is an amazing musician, amazing composer. I really like the stuff, so the music was fine. Visually, it was fine. But let's get into the worst part of this movie. Like, if that wasn't bad enough, because I think that's pretty bad stuff that I mentioned. The worst part, by far, is the villain, played by Jessica Chastain. Now, Jessica Chastain plays the character Buck, and the only reason I can tell you that her character's named Buck is because I read the name in IMDb. I'm not kidding. In the whole movie, I think they mentioned her name once, and it was in a throwaway line, so I had no idea. I had no idea what her name was, and it was really annoying. And now, the cool thing about her, about Buck, is that her powers are never fucking explained. That is a huge pet peeve of mine. I hate it. I had this critique with Wonder Woman. I had it with Captain Marvel, and I have it now. How about if you explain to me what their fucking powers are? How about if you just do that? Huh? That way we know what we're dealing with. The audience, you won't just pull out bullshit out of nowhere. Because apparently, Buck has all the powers in the world, I guess. I don't know. Because they're kind of shapeshifters. And then also psychics. And they do a really weird swirly thing. Nothing makes any sense. Nothing makes any sense. Especially because they're supposed to be based on the Debari, who don't have any of those powers. If you know Marvel Universe, if you know the X-Men Universe and all that stuff, you know who the Debari are, and they're not really that cool. But anyway, and also, apparently for some reason, the Shi'ar Empire, the only survivors from the Shi'ar Empire are the Debari. And for those of you who know the Shi'ar, you know what? I'll make it easier for you. If you saw the animated show, the Shi'ar Empire is fantastic, and they have a lot to do with the Dark Phoenix saga. It's phenomenal. The whole storyline of the Shi'ar Empire is phenomenal. You start seeing beings of phenomenal cosmic power there. I remember like the first time that one of the Shi'ar showed up, one of the dudes, I think it was Gladiator, he just shows up, grabs Juggernaut, and throws him like he was nothing across the ocean. And you're like, oh shit, who the fuck is that? Anyway, so apparently they turned the Shi'ar into the Debari, and apparently it's a collapsed empire. It makes no sense because they never really explain it. They just and they want to get the Phoenix so that they can use their powers to create a planet. It makes no sense. Honestly, I can't tell you really what their plans were, and they were all over the place, and they made no sense, and you didn't even know their name, and their powers are all fucking over. You don't know. Honestly, you don't fucking know anything from the villains. You guess. You can make a pretty good educated guess, but you don't really know. Like, that's the most annoying part to me. I walked out of there with so many questions because they never explained the villain, their motivations, their powers. What are they doing? Why are they there? Well, I mean, they kind of basically they made them basic bitch villains. We want to take over the Earth. It made no sense. I mean, okay, it made sense why they want to take over the Earth. How just didn't make any sense. And I won't get into the how and all that stuff because, again, it might do some spoilers. Which at this point, I don't think you'll mind me doing any spoilers because I don't think you want to spend your money watching this movie. That's my recommendation. Don't waste your money watching this movie. This movie does not deserve to make any money. It was horrifyingly bad. If you want to watch it because you can't believe how horrifyingly bad it was, then that's a different story. But yeah, it was horrifically bad. The villain was terrible. The story makes no sense. They completely destroyed the Xavier character. It's all over. They destroyed a lot of characters. And nothing of the actions make any sense. Nothing of the powers make any sense. They don't understand what they're doing. So this hopefully is the final nail in the coffin of Fox making the freaking X-Men movies. It's done. They've failed horribly, and this guy does not deserve to direct again. There were so many little things that you could tell, oh, this is from a rookie director. This is from a rookie director. For example, and I don't think this is a spoiler. Could it be? Couldn't be? Could it be? I don't think it's a spoiler, but there's certain things where a character, we clearly see him standing in one spot. Well, there's a character. We see him clearly standing at the end of a train, and then like the next fucking scene. Well, not the same because it's the same sequence, but like the next fucking time we see that character, they're somewhere else. And they try to play it like they've been there the whole time. So it makes no sense. And that's like a rookie continuity mistake that happens with rookie directors. But Jesus Christ, if you if you add to that the fact that the story doesn't make any sense and he's supposed to be a writer, it was horrible. It was horrifyingly bad. Horrifyingly bad. This movie crashed and burned completely. Decent performances from most of the cast. Great music, but honestly, I was really upset. I was really upset because I expected very little from this movie. And I got even less. What's that meme? Like, I expected nothing, and I'm still disappointed. It was really bad. I expected at least to see cool mutant fights, you know? And I didn't even get that. Well, I got a few, but not enough. Mostly psychic fights, which are boring as fuck. Or fights of people just trying to talk to each other in order to convince each other. This is X-Men. You don't need to talk. You can duke it out and then talk. It's really, really annoying. Especially when you're not changing what you're saying. You're still basically saying the same thing. It's really annoying. It's really annoying. And the movie was really annoying. And I did not enjoy it. So hopefully after you hear this, you will save your money and you will not watch it because it was bad. Okay? You know what? If you want to watch it, go ahead. Watch it and you can see how bad it was for yourself. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed that. Let me know what you think. As always, you can find me at Dario the Show on Instagram. Any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can reach out right there. Tomorrow, I'm not sure what I'm going to do because I have to do something quick. It can't be something very long because I made a huge mistake and I overcommitted with things, so I have to run out of the studio. Okay, I have to find a way that I can do this and run out of the studio super quick. So I may just do... there's some quick news that came down from Pokemon conference yesterday, so I might just do that, or I might do the story. I'll finally do the do you know what the gangbanging story real quick because it's not that long, so I might just do one of those or both real quick and then just run out of here because I made a big mistake. It was stupid of me. I know I was stupid and I feel stupid, but what can you do? It's still gonna be a lot of fun. I'm gonna have a lot of fun tomorrow, but I'm just gonna be running around a lot anyway. Okay, so that's it. That's it for today. As always, thank you for listening, and I'll see you again tomorrow.